Hey, y'all. Some of y'all may love that song. I, of course, love that song. That is Love on Top by the lovely Beyonce. And this is the Love Weekend. This is Sunday. For those people who are watching today, for those people who may be a little tardy, you'll see it a couple of days afterwards. But this is the day after Valentine's Day, which is why I am in this shiny red and I have this holiday hair going on. We're going to see how long this lasts. I am, of course, Dawn Marie Morris. I'm the Chief Training Officer of the World Class Training Institute, and this is the Leaders Lounge. This is your place to get all of your leadership goodness, everything to help you be your absolute best as leaders, as professionals, is right here for you every week. And so that song, da, 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 Love on Top, is what we're going to talk about today. Now, we're not going to talk about it in the eros sense, which is that love feeling between typically a man and a woman. We're going to talk about it in the sense of servants leadership or agape leadership, because as we are leading our team members, it is important that we exercise love. Love has to be on top. In fact, I read a book recently that spoke about leadership. It was a parable of sorts, and it emphasized how the person was excited to be a leader because of all of the perks that that person would receive. But in essence, what makes a leader great, fantastic, one who is, as John Maxwell calls, a pinnacle level leader, is the person who understands that leadership is about service and about giving to others. And that is the principle of agape. So we're going to talk about some ways to keep love on top as you are leading yourselves and leading others. And a lot of the principles that we are going to talk about are going to be found in my book, which is Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership. And at any time, you can run to worldclasstraining.net/agape and pick up that book. So we're going to touch on, again, a few of the principles from the book. The book speaks to 7 behaviors, because I always say that language is best demonstrated by behavior. I can tell you I love you, but if I don't show you, you probably shouldn't believe me, right? So you're going to see 7 behaviors of leadership in the book, and they all come from or are born out of my intentional leadership model. And I'm going to quickly explain the model before I get into the 3 ways that you can keep love on top as you are leading yourselves and leading others. So the first thing is the left side of the model, as you are viewing the screen, hopefully, is the individual contributor mindset, or what we call flat leadership. And so as people are going typically, or I should say at times, from going from being an individual contributor to a leader of people, they have that flat mindset, which means that they are task-centered, short-sighted, and singularly focused. Why does that happen? It happens because when they are an individual contributor, that's exactly what they have to do. They have been given certain tasks or responsibilities of the job. They master their execution of those tasks or responsibilities, and they're done. And the more they're able to do that at either a highly productive rate or at a rate where their leader sees that they are achieving high results for the company, either in terms of customer service numbers or in terms of if they're a project manager, in terms of managing projects well, independently, then that person might get moved into a leadership role. But we have to understand that moving from an individual contributor to a leader of people requires a shift in mindset, because now you're no longer focused on just doing this task or these tasks. You are now responsible for being the catalyst that drives a team of people to do certain tasks well. So you are no longer skill centered so much as you have to transition into more of a human skills capacity. And so that's where the intentional leader side comes in, or what I call the agape leadership side. And that person does these things. First of all, they consider the who carefully, which means that when they are delegating, they are not just giving away tasks because they don't want them on their desks anymore. They are carefully deciding based on skill and will who gets certain tasks on the team. That is the difference between a dirty delegator, which is what we call those people who just dole out tasks and don't think about to whom they're giving them, and the intentional leader who says, who has the skill capacity, and then that person has certain conversations about the task with the individual to whom they're giving the task, and then together they decide right fit, right timing, and the number of many tasks that need to be completed on the way to the ultimate assignment or completion of the ultimate assignment. So that's carefully considering the who. The second one is taking the long view. So of course we know that intentional leaders have to be visionaries. If you are not a visionary, you cannot be a great leader. And the vision comes from more than just saying, hey, this is what I see that I want to accomplish for the team. I had a situation recently where I know of a company where the leader actually didn't execute great vision in forward thinking about some of the ways that the organization needed to be set up in order to avoid some of the pitfalls that they're currently experiencing. And so when you're talking about becoming an intentional leader, you have to take the long view. I have gotten into my head where now I look at this step, I look at the next step, I look at the next two steps, and I look at if those two steps don't work out, what is the other step I need to take in order to achieve success? And so if you are becoming an intentional leader, that is the mindset that you have to bring to your work. Third thing is, an intentional leader motivates to win. You are not going to be the one doing all of the work. You have to be the person who is the main cheerleader for that group. And so they have to feel inspired to do the work because you have motivated them to win. And if you're doing that, then you can rest a little more easily because you know that this group is doing it because they understand the ultimate vision, mission of the company, of your organization and the department. They are on board with that. They are excited for what can happen because we are doing this work, and they will do the work even when you're not there. That is when you know you have achieved the level of being a motivational leader. And then thirdly, or fourthly, I should say, your behaviors show that they matter. Leaders have to let their team members believe that their presence makes a difference. Now, some leaders may say, well, how can I do that? I can't necessarily dictate if this person knows that their behaviors matter. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. And it's beyond physical recognition. It's how you communicate with them in the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the day. I shared a couple of times in this podcast, other episodes of this podcast, where I had a leader and he was one of the best leaders I've ever had. And the reason is because his behaviors showed that I mattered. How did he do that? When he came in the morning, even if he was running late, he would come by. At that time, we still had cubicles. I'm not sure if y'all still have cubicles out there, but he came by my cubicle, would say good morning, check on me before he went into his office. Now, that let me know that his behaviors demonstrated that I made a difference to the organization. And it wasn't a come, let me check in just to make sure she's there. No, it was a genuine look me in the eye, let me know that my presence made a difference. And in fact, when he left the company, he wrote me a personal card about my impact in the organization. We'll never forget it. We'll never forget him. And he, in my opinion, was one of those who I could say is a servant leader. So this is what we're talking about globally. Again, this model is in the book, Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership. You can always pick that up at worldclasstraining.net/agape. All right, here's a couple of more things. Now we know what it is. Let's get into what it means to love on top. So we've talked about some of the behaviors. We are going to talk about now actively what are a few things that you can do to demonstrate that you are loving on top. And then I'm going to put in how that fits into the model. So the first thing is practice active empathy. So practicing active empathy looks like this. I could have just said be empathetic, right? But when we say practice, that is kinetic. That means that it is empathy in motion. So how do you do that? When your team members are having challenges, it is your responsibility to be a listening ear. And mind you, I said listening ear. It's not always that as the leader, you are there to have all of the answers. You are there to be a sounding board. And in a lot of cases, you are helping them to discover the answer that is already within them. By you showing empathy, if they're having a challenging situation, though, you are the person who becomes approachable. Leaders have to be approachable. It's not to say that all day you are to be distracted and have people in and out of your office or in and out of your workspace so that you're not getting things done. But it is where you're saying, hey, you're having a hard time with this, or hey, you need some additional help with this. Let's set aside a few moments so that we can work through whatever your challenges are. Now, I said a few moments ago that, hey, leaders are not there to give all of the answers. I had a leader speak to me probably a couple of months ago about how his team members are always coming to him, asking him for the answers, when if they would just look in the manual, they would get the answers. And that's true. Sometimes our team members can exercise laziness or they just know you have the answer, so they rather just grab it from you so they can keep going. And the challenge with that is if they are not utilizing their brain power or utilizing, as my old boss says, use your resources to get the answers, then you are being an enabler and you are slowing down ultimate progress. So you want to make sure that when you are exercising or practicing active empathy, that you absorb, you listen, and then you transition. Absorb, listen, and transition, which means you don't let them sit and stay in a sad place of wallow. You help them to move beyond the moment. If it needs an additional 10 seconds, if they need to go outside, if they need to just come back and regroup, whatever that is, don't allow them to not do the work because they're having a challenge. Help them through your listening, through your asking active questions, move through the challenge so that they can get to the other side. That is how you practice active empathy. And if you do that, then you're also going to help them with the second piece of what you have to do if you are being a leader who is loving on top, which is developing your people. I was listening to or watching probably on no, I think I was watching a reel on Facebook where they were talking about Mike Tomlin, who is the now retired coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And somebody said, well, he's not a Hall of Famer because he hasn't produced any disciples. I said, interesting. So when you're thinking about becoming what John Maxwell would call a pinnacle level leader, you have to develop people. Right above productivity is people development, and above people development is respect. So that goes back to that whole empathy piece, that goes back to the listening, that goes back to delegating based on skill and will. And if you're doing that, then you are inherently positioning people in your organization to move up in the company, to be able to move into other skill areas in the company if that is their desire. You are developing them even to eventually take your place. As an intentional leader, you have to be a developer of people. That is paramount. Now, before I go to the third one, we're going to go back to our model right quickly, and we are going to look at now back to how the first two are a part of intentional leadership. So if you look at practice active empathy, how is that a part of being an intentional leader? Is it carefully considering the who, taking the long view, motivate to win, behaviors show that they matter? Which one would you say? Hopefully, behaviors show that they matter. When you practice active empathy, you are showing that your team members matter. And yes, again, it takes a little extra time, but you're showing that they matter. Let's go to the next one. People development is paramount. Is that carefully considering the who, takes the long view, motivates to win, behaviors show that they matter? Which one? Guess what, guys? That really is a little bit of all of them. Because if you carefully consider the who, then you're looking at their skill set to determine, hey, where may they go in the company to another level? Taking the long view. How do I help them get there? How can I help develop them to get there? Motivating to win. You may have to encourage them that, hey, you know what, this may be a great opportunity for you. Behaviors show that they matter. By you thinking beyond the tasks that you want them to do to how they can be better in the organization, then you are showing that they matter and their presence makes a difference. So now you see how this all comes together. And this is a part of showing that love is on top as you are leading your teams. Last one. Accountability with care over attacks. Accountability with care over attacks. Now, I'm going to come in close on this one because I really want y'all to lean in as I'm talking about this. Leaders, you are there to be friendly, but you are not there to be their friends. I'm going to say it again. You are there to be friendly, but you are not there to be their friends. You, as a leader, are responsible for the successful carrying out of the tasks and responsibilities of the members of your team. If you have delegated effectively by carefully considering the who, if you have motivated them, if you have followed up when you've delegated, then you have a greater likelihood that you will have success as you dole out tasks or as you delegate. If your team members do not do what they are supposed to do, lean in closely. You must have a conversation with them. You got to do it. You have to have a conversation with them. Hear what I said. You don't have to go and have a conversation with the other leaders on the team. You don't go and have a conversation with other people who are your peers about how this person messed up. You don't wait to go home mad. You don't go and just take care of it yourself because, oh my goodness, how can they not know how to do this? Let me just go do it myself. You have got to have a conversation with the person who is not doing what they are supposed to do. Now, I have here accountability with care over attacks. So how do we do that? Care over attacks shows up when you put the problem on the table and leave the personal off. So we are talking about the facts of what did not go right. You don't want to get involved in personal attacks. Oh, you always do this wrong. Oh, you've got a bad attitude. Oh, you're always late. None of those types of things. What, unless late is the reason that they're being brought in, of course. But what you want to do is talk about for this particular assignment. This is what was required. This is what was delivered. Here is the gap. How can we close the gap? Center your conversation on the problem, not the person. How is this going to help you? Well, when you do that, what happens is that person, number one, starts respecting you if they don't already. They respect that you didn't just let things go by the wayside. They respect that you are now, if you're doing it right, using this as a development opportunity for them to get better. And they will know that you care about them and the work, which gives you the answer to the last one for accountability with care over attacks is back to behaviors show that they matter. And it also motivates to win. It could, in fact, also take the long view, because if you bring that person in to discuss whatever it is they didn't do correctly, and you say, you know, if you're looking to move into, I'm just going to say the IT department, for instance, they are extremely detail oriented over there. So for you to miss one or two minor details on assignments that you have in that department can have major implications for their work overall. So you have to be very detailed if you're thinking about moving into the IT department. So now you're not only just using it as an opportunity to tell them what they did incorrectly, you're using it as a motivator and a visionary moment for them. Oh my goodness. Well, if I'm looking to go into IT, I really got to be detail oriented, because when I go over there, they're going to be looking for that level of expertise. So using this model is essential. It is essential. And again, you can pick it up and in the book, Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership, I outline my intentional leadership model. So you can go and pick that up at worldclasstraining.net/agape. And also I train an intentional leadership cohort, 6 sessions that helps leaders with everything from vision to systems thinking to delegation, conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, all of these components that make up the myriad of competencies that leaders need to be excellent. So you can check that out at my website to worldclasstraining.net. So as we are wrapping up this love day and this love weekend, make sure that you are keeping love on top. It is the agape, selfless, sacrificial care and concern for others that you must exercise when you are leading your teams. If you enact these principles, I can tell you that your leadership journey will be one of success. I know because I live the principles. All right, so keep love on top. All right, keep love on top. Pick up Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership at www.worldclasstraining.net/agape. If you're interested in the intentional leadership model being trained to your leaders, please contact me again at worldclasstraining.net. There's a form, you just fill it out, and I will have a consultation with you, and we are happy to come and serve you. All right. Also, make sure to subscribe to the World Class Training Institute subscribe to the World Class Training Institute, subscribe to the Leaders Lounge right now by just clicking the button. Click the button and subscribe so you can get all of this leadership goodness every time. And until next time, always remember at the World Class Training Institute, when you are better, we're absolutely better. Take care.